It is Scott Duffy Bonsai. Today we're taking a look at the Sony A7R IV. Thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this out at their shop. The A7R IV is currently one of the highest megapixel full-frame mirrorless cameras on the market, 61 megapixels. Of course, you can crop down to APS-C format. You get around 26 megapixels in that case. This is a higher-end camera. That means it has a lot of buttons, a lot of control, a lot of features for those professional photographers. 1/8,000th of a second, maximum shutter speed, mechanical, electronic shutter that you can use as well. 1/250th of a second, maximum flash sync speed with that mechanical shutter. It does have the steady shot shake reduction in the camera itself. It is rated up to 5.5 stops depending on what lens you are using. Given the number of megapixels in this camera, it felt pretty prompt to use. I didn't notice any issues with lag in the camera. Of course, I wasn't hitting the buffer at all, just doing single photos. Given this line of camera, given the level of this camera, it has that larger battery, which is nice to have. In a camera like this especially, it has that NPF-Z100 battery. The body itself feels very rugged, in line with a camera you would expect to feel like at this level. Sony of course says this camera has weather resistance, so just know that's in there. So it has seals and gaskets to help avoid water getting into the camera. Given that this is a mirrorless camera, it of course has the electronic viewfinder. It's large, it's nice, it's high megapixel, it's one of the top end currently of mirrorless cameras. The back screen is a touch screen. It is somewhat limited. You just get the touch to focus if you want that available. The screen itself does tilt, but it doesn't have a large degree of tilt to it. On the bottom of the camera, of course, there is the tripod socket. It is in line with the lens as usual with a camera like this, but it is somewhat forward on the camera. It would have been nice if it were more centered. Not going to be an issue, just take note of that. Given this level of camera, it has no flash and a hot shoe. That's standard for these type of cameras, no issues there. Ports are sectioned off into groups. You have different types of ports. So you have the two different USB ports, the C and the standard micro, which Sony also calls the multi-port. Then you have the microphone port, headphone port, and the Type D HDMI, which is the smallest type of HDMI port. The A7R IV does have the flash sync port, so if that's something you use, you're a studio photographer or whatever, it's in there. The covers on the ports are simple rubber, they're easy to open and close. Definitely nice there. If you ever damage one, you can probably replace it pretty easily. The camera is relatively short, but it does have a thick grip, so maybe your pinky won't have enough room, but you do have a large, easy to hold grip on there. The mode dial, which has a lock on it, you hold that button down and you can rotate it. The exposure compensation dial also has a lock on it. In this case, you have to press it on or off. I think I would have preferred that the mode dial lock be the same as the exposure compensation lock, where you could turn it off or turn it on rather than having to hold it down. As with most Sony cameras, there are a lot of custom buttons you can control and adjust as you would like throughout the camera. The placement of the video record button is in a decent spot given the limited space on the camera. The mode dial is clean and does not have unnecessary modes on it. You have 3 memory save slots on the mode dial, which is very nice to have. What you can do there is push setting groups into those slots and easily adjust the mode dial to switch to that specific group of settings. I really love having those features on a camera. On Sony cameras, one of the main buttons to use is the FN button. It allows you quick access to settings that you would want to change most likely without having to go deep into their menu system. A lot of professionals, a lot of photographers like using a back button to initiate autofocus. In this case, it has a dedicated AF on button that you can use. Below that, you have a nub for adjusting the autofocus point. It works very nicely to move your autofocus point around the camera, and it's also a button itself which you can press to have the camera go to the center autofocus point. There are 2 SD card slots on the camera. They are UHS-II, so you have faster speeds on both card slots, which is nice to have. I did try the wireless capabilities on this camera with their Imaging Edge app. It is very quick to connect with their QR code method of connection, and it gives you a decent amount of options. However, I couldn't figure out any way to adjust the autofocus point through the app. When I was in manual mode, I could adjust all the main settings that I needed to. So let's go through some of the settings, some of the menu options in this camera. If you're worried about the size of RAW photos, you can do compressed RAW with this camera. There are a lot of photographer-focused features like bracketing, interval modes, also the pixel shift. By using the shake reduction mechanism in the camera, you can have very large photos where it's shifted just a pixel at a time with that mechanical device in the camera. Sony's latest cameras are very advanced with autofocus. There are a multitude of options. It's got face priority, eye priority, animal priority, AFS, AFA, AFC, DMF, and MF for the main autofocus options. AFC is the continuous, you'll probably want to be using that most of the time. DMF is a autofocus with manual focus adjustment after you gain focus the first time. With manual focus, you do have the option of using peaking on the camera with different levels and colors. The camera, of course, does have a silent photo mode. It does not use the mechanical shutter. While this camera is very focused on photography, it does have a lot of options with video as well. You have the 4K video up to 30 frames a second, 100 megabit, also the 1080p modes up to 120 frames a second. You have a lot of AF adjustments in the settings for video mode, which is nice if you want to adjust how quickly the camera will focus on subjects or track subjects. You do have the option to display audio levels on the screen, which is very nice to have with video. So with the video samples, you can see if there is any rolling shutter. It's very important if you do a lot of quick movements with your video. I did do a quick slow motion test with a cloth. You can see him drop it on there. Basically it's in there, it's an option. Let's take a look at the sample photos from this camera. Of course, these are huge files. I'm going to show the JPEGs that I took. At the highest quality setting, we'll go at a full view and then 100% crop of each photo. The Sony A7R IV is a very impressive camera. Once you get it in your hands, you can feel that it is solidly built. It's a huge amount of options. It has a large amount of controls, direct controls, customizable controls, and it's definitely focused towards professionals, people that are into landscape photography, studio work, any situation where you need a large amount of detail in your photos. Of course, you want to pair this camera with high quality lenses if you want that absolute image quality, and consider things like using the electronic first curtain shutter mode on the camera so you have less internal shake to deal with. I see this camera as a great option for any professional photographer that is not concerned about large image files. They can deal with that storage-wise, and someone who's not too concerned with super fast action. Of course, this camera will do just fine in that, but you do have options like the A9 series that are better in that case. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Scott Photography Bonsai. Again, thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this out at their shop and film there. Very much appreciated. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. That helps me out a lot. Likes and shares help out a lot as well. Thanks again.